Welcome to Travel Witch Radio. This is the 636th episode, 15th season, and we have an old friend and a great guy, Aaron Toole. Welcome back to Travel Witch.
Hey, Dan, it's always a pleasure. It's been a busy year on the Outer Banks. A lot has happened since the last time we talked, and I'm excited to share what's been going on here on the OBX with the Travel Witch Radio crowd.
Well, the Outer Banks, 100 miles of Atlantic shoreline, 4 centuries of history, blended with Southern hospitality. That's a pretty powerful combination.
You know, it really is. And when you live here and work here, it's easy to take for granted just how extraordinary that combination is. You know, we're the place where America's story started, the first English-European attempted settlement, the first powered flight by the Wright brothers in 1903. And in 2026, as the country celebrates its 250th birthday, there's genuinely no more fitting place to be thinking about what this nation is, what we like to think of ourselves as the land of beginnings.
Now, Cape Hatteras National Seashore, that runs along 3 barrier islands. Hatteras is the big one. What are the other 2?
So the other 2 are Bodie Island. It's spelled B-O-D-I-E, but it's pronounced Bodie, and Ocracoke Island. And those 3, together with Hatteras Island, make up the Cape Hatteras National Seashore, which is the longest stretch of undeveloped beaches in the eastern United States. But and it's also America's first national seashore. I want to give a slightly bigger picture too, because the broader Outer Banks also includes Roanoke Island, where our county seat of Mantua, the town of Mantua, sits, and then all the other northern beach communities. We have Corolla, Duck, Southern Shores, Kitty Hawk, Kill Devil Hills, Nags Heads, those towns. Since that's a lot of ground that we can try and cover today.
We'll try to get it in. Cape Hatteras, America's first national seashore, right?
That's right. So Congress authorized it in 1937. It was established in 53, dedicated in 1958. So you're looking at more than 70 miles of unbroken coastline, over 30,000 acres of beaches, dunes, marshes, maritime woodlands. It's a spectacular stretch of wild coastline. It's free. There's no entrance fees. There's no parking meters. And we believe in free access. And you can even drive on the beach if you go to recreation.gov and get a beach driving permit. We recommend a 4-wheel drive to do that, though.
And I love the name Graveyard of the Atlantic. It really sticks with you. There's a museum called that?
That's right. So the Graveyard of the Atlantic Museum is in Hatteras Village. It's right at the southern tip of Hatteras Island. It tells the story of more than 2,000 documented shipwrecks off the North Carolina coast. And this stretch of water is where the Labrador Current comes down from the northeast and meets the Gulf Stream, which wraps around Florida and comes on up. And it meets at the Diamond Shoals, which is an underwater sandbar system that stretches for like 14 miles off the coast of where Cape Hatteras is. The museum has salvaged cargo, piracy exhibits, World War II artifacts, German U-boats sank Allied ships right off our coast and leading up to 1942. And admission is free. It's one of the best free museums that you can enjoy anywhere.
And the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse, 1870, the nation's tallest?
That's right. So it's 208 feet tall. And if you could count the lightning rod, it's 210, depending on who you ask. Still the tallest brick lighthouse in North America. The black and white spiral stripe pattern is iconic. That barber pole, it's basically the symbol of the Outer Banks. And here's the thing that people love. In 1999, they actually moved the lighthouse 2,900 feet inland. They put in a hydraulic system and rolled it over 23 days because it was threatened by erosion, and one of the great engineering feats of the late 20th century. Visitors can climb it. It's 257 steps to the top. And this year, they're undergoing a restoration project. So if you want to see the lighthouse stripped to the bare paint under scaffolding, it's probably once in a lifetime opportunity to see it.
There's a remarkable story about the first all-black crew in the U.S. life-saving service right there in the Outer Banks.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite stories that doesn't get enough attention on the Outer Banks. The Peon Life-Saving Station, which is actually on Hatteras Island, was led starting in 1880 by Keeper Richard Etheridge, the first African-American to command a life-saving station in the country. He's also a former slave prior to the American Civil War. His all-black crew served for 67 years from 1880, the crew that he started, until 1947. Their most famous rescue was in 1896 during a brutal hurricane. They saved all 9 people aboard the schooner E.S. Newman, swimming into the surf with lines to bring every single person to safety. And the Coast Guard posthumously awarded them the Gold Life-Saving Medal in 1996. There's a bronze statue of Keeper Etheridge in Manteo down at Collins Park, and there's the Cookhouse Museum, which is one of the remaining buildings from that time period that was brought to Manteo. You can go celebrate that heritage there.
And speaking about the Coast Guard and life-saving service, I understand that the first distress call from the Titanic was picked up at the Outer Banks. Is that accurate?
That's right. So there's the Hatteras Weather Bureau station, which we operate as a visitor center in Hatteras. And the beginnings of the National Weather Service, they had these station buildings up and down the coast, and they telegraphed weather reports. When we were restoring that building, it's been a little while now, but when we were restoring the building, they found they crumpled in the walls. They would take discarded paper and they turned them into insulation and things. They didn't have a whole lot of stuff here on these sandbar islands back at the turn of the 1900s. And so they found this telegraph that it was the first, as we know it, the first reception of this SOS distress call from the Titanic was these gentlemen that were working at the Hatteras Weather Service in the early 1900s.
And we can't forget the Wright brothers' first powered flight, 1903, right there at Kill Devil Hills.
That's right. It's 12 seconds that changed the world. The Wright brothers, it's one of the 3 national park sites that we have on the Outer Banks that we're fortunate to have all in one destination. When you stand on the hill and look out at that open stretch of beach, you can understand why they came here. The consistent winds, the soft landing service, the isolation from the prying eyes of reporters and anyone that might steal their ideas about how to make powered flight. And the visitors can stand on the exact spots where each of one of 4 flights that were held that day on December 17th, 1903. The first one was about 120 feet, I believe. And so it was made. So they went about 10 feet off the ground, lasted 12 seconds. And then the fourth one, which was way out there, I don't know if it was like over 400 feet, they actually wrecked the plane, and then they stopped flying that day.
Okay, America turns 250 years old this year. How's the Outer Banks marking the occasion?
We lean pretty hard into it. The Outer Banks is, again, one of those places that we like to think that a lot of things started off here. Our signature event was the Dare A250 Fair, Liberty, Legacy, and Liftoff in the Land of Beginnings, held April 18th at Wright Brothers National Memorial. They had a fee-free day, patriotic festival, live music, historical storytelling, food, lots of stuff to do for the kids. And we also wove in the A250 theme into our annual Kelly's St. Patrick's Day Parade in March, which is for 35 years one of the largest parades for St. Patrick's Day in the state of North Carolina. It's over a mile long.
The North Carolina Aquarium on Roanoke Island, first of the state's 3 aquariums, opened in 1976. That makes this year its 50th anniversary.
Yeah, it does, and that's a milestone worth celebrating. So the North Carolina Aquarium on Roanoke Island, wonderful facility right here in the heart of the island with native coastal species, shark exhibits. There's touch tanks for the kids where you can touch stingrays and sea anemones and hermit crabs. They've got a sea turtle research facility and rehab facility there. So it's a great place to see some of these enormous, ocean creatures up close.
And you produce a video series called The Outer Edge. Tell us about that.
The Outer Edge is something I'm pretty proud of. It's a video series produced by the Outer Banks Visitors Bureau. And the whole premise is telling the stories of the people who make this place what it is. It's not a glossy marketing campaign, but sort of think of them as like short documentary films, deep diving into the culture, the people, the places that make the Outer Banks separate. So season 1 we had in 2025 covered commercial fishing, traditional boat building, coastal photography, weather, locally made goods, grassroots music. Season 2 just dropped in January with 5 more episodes on skateboarding, science, shipwrecks, fishing piers. You can find it on YouTube, or you can go to outerbanks.org/edge, or our website, outerbanks.org/edge, and you can see all 11 in the series and read a little bit about each one.
That's great. I know that summer is peak season for the Outer Banks, but there's a lot going on in the fall too, and the crowds are less, the prices drop. So tell us what's going on in October.
October is like our big secret season. So the weather is generally perfect, warm days, cool evenings, less crowds, and we stack the calendar with lots of events that you just can't get anywhere else. Like we have the Bluegrass Island Music Festival. It runs October 14th through the 17th at Roanoke Island Festival Park here in Manteo, which is right on the water. We have great regional bluegrass in a beautiful setting. You have the Duck Jazz Festival is in early October at the Ducktown Park. It's a free concert. It's also soundside. And we have the Wings Over Water, which is one of our premier wildlife festivals and birding events here in the eastern United States, October 13th through the 18th. Plus, there's 60 or more guided trips across the national wildlife refuges, including Pea Island, Alligator River. There's some things up in Currituck and Ocracoke. The keynote this year is Scott Weidensaul, who's one of the great migration scientists, birding, paddling, photography. We have one of the great big black bear populations in eastern United States that a lot of people don't expect to see, bald eagles, just a lot of really neat stuff that's in the space of nature.
The Outer Banks Seafood Festival and OBX Brewtag, both in Nags Head?
Yeah, they're both at the Outer Banks Soundside Events site, which we manage in partnership with the town of Nags Head. It's a great outdoor venue right on the Roanoke Sound, beautiful backdrop. The Seafood Festival is October 18th. It's a big heritage celebration of commercial fishermen, the industry, the seafood that they bring, and how the restaurants meet them at the marketplace and serve their food at our over 100 locally owned restaurants. And then you have Brewtog, which is October 24th. And if you haven't heard of Brewtog, it's like a keg flying competition. Basically, teams from all over America build flying machines shaped like everything under the sun, from the Wright brothers' original plane to the USS Enterprise to rockets. And they build them around a standard pony keg, and they throw them off the top of a 30-foot scaffolding in a competition for distance and creativity. And it's also, they serve regional craft beer. And so it's just a big family-friendly event, but it's a lot of fun.
And if I remember correctly, there's an arts district in Nags Head. Please share.
Right, sure. So there's Gallery Row. It's along the bypass in Nags Head. It's part of the broader OBX Art Trail, which stretches over 100 miles from Corolla all the way to Ocracoke. You have galleries, studios, artisan spaces, everything from oil painting and sculpture to glass blowing and woodworking. It's a curated trail, and maps are available at outerbanks.org. The art scene is generally very vibrant and deeply local. We even have everything from fine jewelry to furniture. So you can find it all out here.
And I want to tell our viewers you're watching Travel Witch Radio. Our guest this evening is Aaron Toole of the Outer Banks Visitors Bureau. Aaron, let's go a little bit deeper on history. The Lost Colony outdoor drama at Fort Raleigh. Tell us about that.
Sure. So the Lost Colony Outdoor Drama is America's longest running outdoor symphonic drama. It's written by Pulitzer Prize winner Paul Green. It's been performed every summer since July 4th, 1937. FDR, as the first and only sitting president to attended the theater live since its inception. So it's in its 89th season this year. They'll celebrate 90 next year. So more than 4 million people have seen it. It tells a story of 117 English men, women, and children who attempted to settle Roanoke Island in 1587 and then were never seen again by European eyes. They disappeared before Governor John White returned to resupply the little colony 3 years later in 1590. What makes it extraordinary is it's performed at Waterside Theater on the actual site of where we recognize the colony to be. So you're sitting where this history happened, and it's really incredible. They change it a little bit every year to keep it interesting, but it's the same storyline, and they've got some amazing thespians that come and put this on every year.
Wasn't Virginia Dare the first English child born in the Americas?
Sure was. So on August 18th, 1587, on Roanoke Island, Virginia Dare, she was named after the Virgin Queen Elizabeth I. Her grandfather was the governor of the colony, the Manteo colony, John White, who sailed back to England for supplies shortly after she was born. So she was seen as a newborn and then wasn't seen again by history, by recorded history. By the time he finally got back in 1590, delayed by the Spanish Armada conflict that was happening between England and Spain, everyone was gone. So the settlement was abandoned. The only clue was the word Croatoan that was carved into a post that a lot of people might think they remember a piece of that history. There's no bodies, no signs of violence, just that single word. It remains one of the most enduring mysteries in American history that is unsolved. And so there's some serious ongoing archaeological efforts to find the answers. Every August 18th, we mark Virginia Dare's birthday by inviting a live baby to come and try out for that role of the onstage baby that's normally portrayed by a doll. On that one special night, there's local live babies that are kind of switched in, and it's a big deal.
And since we're talking about Roanoke Island, what's the story with the wireless experiments early in the 20th century?
So this one surprises a lot of people. In 1902, Canadian inventor Reginald Fessenden set up a wireless telegraph tower on Roanoke Island and successfully transmitted signals more than 50 miles across open water. So you can think of it as like one of the early births of wireless communication. So this was years before radio broadcasting as we know it. The Outer Banks was essentially a testing ground for early wireless communication. That combination of open water, consistent atmospheric conditions, and isolation made it ideal for experiments that were pushing the absolute edge of technology. First flight, first radio transmission, there's a pattern of firsts. This place has always attracted people who want to do something that hasn't been done before.
And I was intrigued to learn that the North Carolina Oyster Trail runs through the Outer Banks.
Very much so. So the Pamlico Sound is, I've heard it described as second in size to the Chesapeake Bay in water volume here on the East Coast anyway. And so it produced some of the best oysters on the East Coast. The flavor profile is shaped by the mix of that salt and fresh water as the rivers drain into the sounds, and they kind of mix with a little bit of that salination that comes in from the ocean side of the islands. You can get oyster farm tours, raw bar experiences, tastings at restaurants along the trail. There's even a website for the North Carolina Oyster Trail. We have Shellebration, which is an event that celebrates the local shellfish and the watermen who harvest them. And it's the OBX identity is really rooted in what comes from the water and rooted in the water. And oysters are a huge part of that story.
And the Outer Banks has a great track record when it comes to female-owned businesses too.
Yeah, it's one of the things I like talking about. The Outer Banks has a high number of women-owned businesses, from galleries and bookstores to surfing schools, charter boat operations, coffee shops and restaurants. Duck's Cottage on the northern beaches is a beloved independent bookstore. Ocracoke Island to the south is particularly striking. More than 80% of the businesses on Ocracoke Island and the Ocracoke Village are women-owned, and that's an entrepreneurial spirit among the women of this region that goes back generations.
And Misfits Bar Crawl, the Naughty Nine, great nightlife options, aren't they?
Yeah, so we like to have a little fun after dark during the holidays. You have a few concurrent restaurant crawls to dozens of restaurants that turn into holiday pop-up versions of themselves. They go in all in to change their menus, the marquee on the road. They decorate all out in like antique or retro Christmas decorations. The 99 is essentially a guide to 9 great bars on Roanoke Island. It's a mix of local dives and livelier spots. They give you a taste of nightlife culture. The Misfits Bar Crawl is a similar concept that goes up the beach. And so if you're coming to the Outer Banks, like a lot of people do for Thanksgiving, for a family reunion, because we're right halfway up the East Coast, is a great meeting point. The 12 Bars of Christmas is one of those holiday crawls that kind of started it off. And so from Thanksgiving to New Year's Eve, there's something big for the holidays we have every weekend on the Outer Banks.
And the real experience, if you're a tourist coming to the Outer Banks, is vacation rental homes. Isn't that the signature OBX experience?
Yeah, I mean, it's how the Outer Banks has been experienced for generations. We've been doing this like way before it was cool and trendy. You can rent an oceanfront or a soundfront house, a real house, not a tiny one. So the full kitchen, multiple bedrooms, your own stretch of beach, and families and friend groups come for a week. It becomes a tradition. And I've been to a lot of places in America, and the sort of loyalty to tradition and the idea of getting a house and getting a beach home here on the Outer Banks is something that our visitors tell us that they come back for year after year. They come as children, and now they're bringing their grandchildren to experience that same kind of fun, clean, safe beach experience, you know?
Well, I know because I did it thanks to you. So thank you. It was a great experience.
Sure
Sophie
was.
still talks about it. I don't know how many years later. She was 8 when we were there. Now she's 24.
I know.
So-
I mean, like, and we bonded over that experience, and we've known each other as friends and professionals for a long time.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, let's talk about hotels and full service resorts. What are the options? I know there's a new chapter at the Sanderling.
Yeah, so the Sanderling Resort in Duck had a landmark year. They're our area 4-star property. They celebrated their 40th anniversary in 25. And they opened in 1985 and debuted a stunning renovation in a brand new restaurant called Theodosia, helmed by James Beard award-winning chef Vivian Howard. She's the chef behind Chef and the Farmer in Kinston on the PBS series, The Chef's Life. She's a North Carolina culinary icon. The Sanderling was named Condé Nast Traveler's #1 resort in the South. It's a pretty big deal. And for boutique options, we have the Pearl Restaurant in Manius, new construction, 16-room property in downtown Maniou, walkable to the water, and the Lost Colony. And for 2026, we have the Spark. It's a new hotel in Nags Head, adding a great addition to that mid-beach lodging mix. And we also have the Pebble Coast Station Edge Camp, which has been celebrated in Travel and Leisure, I believe, and maybe Condé Nast, and is a sort of a brand new refurbished hotel in the Hatteras Island, northern Hatteras Island, in the Tri-Villages area.
Should people be thinking about their 2027 trips already?
Yeah, I mean, I say this without any exaggeration. The best oceanfront homes, book early. And so into January, into February is when a lot of people who know they're coming to the Outer Banks kind of, reserve the homes, the ones with the nicest luxury TVs and number of master bedrooms tend to go first, as you get big crowds together. But that said, there's a lot of really great deals out there right now too. So we're heading towards I can't believe that July 4th, I mean, we're on its doorstep almost. And so there's some good, if you haven't decided on the Outer Banks yet, and hopefully you're watching this and you're like, man, I'm going to get off the couch and go do that thing. Now's the time to book if you haven't done it, like today. And whether you book for the summer or you book for this fall, which we'd love to see it come this fall. Thanks for Christmas, July 4th. In 2027, no one will tell you no if you want to book for 2027, for sure.
Where are most visitors coming from, and how do they get there?
Primary drive markets are, that big funnel. So you come down from Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia, Hampton Roads, the Norfolk, Virginia Beach area, Raleigh, Durham, Richmond, Charlotte, New Jersey, New York. You even have a little bit of West Virginia, and people come down from Canada and the Ontario area. So from the north, a lot of people like to take the Chesapeake Bay Bridge tunnel route. That's a scenic drive. That's kind of an neat experience in its own right. From the west, you can come in on US 64, sort of down I-95 and over from 64 from Raleigh. The nearest airports there's Norfolk Airport, which is 90 miles away. And then there's a larger Raleigh-Durham United Airport, which is about 3.5 hours away. I tend to fly out of Norfolk a lot, but if I'm going to go somewhere big and I want a nonstop flight, I might think about RDU. So if it's worth the drive to you for that experience.
I understand that you have a great culinary scene. In a nutshell, let's hear about it.
Yeah, so the Outer Banks Promise is our responsible visitation. And it's a genuine commitment, not a marketing checkbox. We partner with more than 100 local volunteer organizations, and visitors can sign up through outerbanks.org to participate in beach cleanups, wildlife monitoring, habitat restoration, all kinds of hands-on stewardship. The 7 core pledges of the OBX promise cover everything from leaving no trace to respecting local wildlife, supporting local businesses. There's that idea that when you visit the Outer Banks, become a steward of it. And small acts genuinely have big impacts on a place like this.
Okay, you like to say that the culinary scene is underrated. How so?
Oh, well, a lot of the seafood on your plate was caught that morning from local waters. So the OBX has a genuine sea-to-table culture that didn't seem or need to be invented. It just always was. And it's one of the ways that a lot of people who live here sustained themselves. It's like one of the backbone industries of the Outer Banks is commercial fishing. One of my favorite examples is National Softshell Week, which we just finished in May. It's the 4th annual. There's 41 restaurants participating, serving soft-shell crabs prepared every imaginable way across the 3 islands. So it's a culinary event with real heritage behind it. There's a peak season that happens around Mother's Day and the full moon, usually in May or late April, when blue crabs that live in the Chesapeake Bay and the Pamlico Sound that everyone's familiar with, they have their big molt or big growth season. So if you pull them out of the water and harvest them, they stay soft, and that allows you to just eat the whole crab. They don't harden again, so eat the whole crab versus picking the meat like you would, as you can imagine, a hard shell crab. So so that's an example of one of our seafood festivals that we have that's kind of new and growing.
Aaron, how would you describe the different personalities of the OBX?
I like this question. So think of it as 3 distinct vacations within 100 miles. So you have the northern beaches, what we call the northern beaches, the north end of the Outer Banks, which connects basically everything that starts south of the Virginia line. So you have Corolla, Duck, Southern Shores, Kitty Hawk. They have a refined town center with great dining, boutique shopping. They have the big national park there is Wright Brothers Memorial. You have the mid-beach area, so Kill Devil Hills, Nags Head, classic OBX beach experience, family-friendly core. It's where a lot of stuff is. And then the National Seashore begins at the southern end of that and goes to Hatteras Island and Ocracoke Islands. That's where you go to get away. It's a lot of that. Someone who would stay there might be more inclined to make it a beach-centric vacation where there's less commercial development, but more mom and pop restaurants and stores and shops. The accommodations in any of those places are as nice as you want to accommodate within your budget. So you have a really nice house, you have a very modest cottage, modest hotels, it's a bed and breakfast, campgrounds, but the experience is going to be a little more busier up in the north, and in the south it gets a little bit more rustic feeling. And then of course Manio, Roanoke Island, same thing there. It kind of something for everybody. Manio in particular has a lot of bed and breakfasts and small inns and hotels, and a town front that's facing the sound. So it's like a lot of boutique shops and stuff like that.
Anything I haven't asked you that you'd like to add?
Sure, there's a couple things. From first, the Nags Head Soundside Boardwalk. We just cut the tape on a new boardwalk that we're expanding our Outer Banks event site in Nags Head. It's half a mile long, and it goes out into the Roanoke Sound, has beautiful views. It's free and open every day, instantly become one of the favorite sunset spots on the beach for locals and visitors. And in Ocracoke, if you haven't taken the ferry to Ocracoke Island, put it on your list of like day trip ideas. It's a free ferry. It's about 40 minutes long, and you land in one of the most distinctive communities on the East Coast. There's an island village with no traffic lights, the second oldest operating lighthouse in the country. And then, of course, there's 80% women-owned businesses in that community, as I mentioned, and you can rent a golf cart, stay for lunch, let yourself get lost. You can find out everything you need, including going to see the wild horses, visiting all 5 lighthouses in the region at outerbanks.org.
Okay, our guest today has been Aaron Toole, Public Relations Manager of the Outer Banks Visitors Bureau. How do people find you?
The best place to start at outerbanks.org. That has all of every business out here that's visitor facing or tourism related has listing. There's lodging, there's events, there's maps, There's the Outer Edge video series, everything you need to plan a trip. And if you want to follow along on social, we're on, go to Facebook. You're to type in facebook.com/The Outer Banks. That's us. And on Instagram @The Outer Banks NC. Those are probably our two most popular audiences. But yeah, just look for a little orange sticker with white OBX in it, and you know you're on our channel.
And before we go, I always like to plug my book, The New Baseball Bible, available wherever books are sold. I'm signing in Cooperstown July 2nd and again on July 25th. Aaron, thank you so much for being with us on Travel It.
Hey, it's always a pleasure. Save me a copy of that book, and I'll sign it when I see it on the trail. And tell Sophie the Outer Banks is waiting for her to come back, and I say hi.
That'd be great. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to have you. And next week, Amy Wright of Music Road Trip. You guys are going to like this. It's something brand new. She'll tell you where to find any kind of music, the best venues. And that's it for this edition of Travel It. Be safe and enjoy the show.